Thanks for supporting the broadcast. Okay, Gavin, I just made the whole point about that you secretly are related to Tsar Nicholas II.
That's actually a secret. You shouldn't have mentioned that on the show.
They're going to say,
Lord designed a man's face to cover the fact that you don't have a chin and you have aesthetic problems. I don't know why we ignore that. I look at Rupert Murdoch, and as Carl Pilkington says, he looks like a turtle without his shell. If you're ugly.
Well, hey, here's the deal. I have not a weak chin. It's actually, my dad's a dentist, about as big as they get. It's like a bulldog, so it's giant. So I have a regular length chin, but you're right. It looks like I have a small chin because I have a giant pumpkin head. But if I grow a beard, I look like a caveman. You think I should grow one now that it's like now uncool, or what should I do?
By all means. You got kind of a round head. Are you a Slovak? Are you Eastern European?
No, but if you mix like a Brit with a German and then Native American, that's pretty much what Slovaks are, because that's where the Indians came from, was basically China, Huns, over the Bering Strait of the Americas. So I'm kind of like an artificial Western genetic variety of a Slav, actually.
You're a homemade Slav.
I'm an American-made Slav with no original Slav, but even older Slav from Bering Land Strait, 15,000-year-old Asian.
Yes. Well, I married an Indian, and I made a bunch of Indians. They're very cute as kids. I highly recommend them.
All right, listen, I'm running over you here. You got censored famously or manipulated, and I want to talk about this some in the next hour with you, but let's start talking about it now. On The Daily Show, there's a new case of Katie Couric caught. I don't know if you've seen it. It just came out yesterday, where she edited the video to make it look like they couldn't answer her question, but they could.
Okay, so here's the assumption, right? White male patriarchy is retarded. We're idiots. And we're so stupid, by the way, that when we talk and when we express our beliefs, the left sort of goes, oh, God, here we go again with this idiotic mentality. This is so boring. And in order to purport that myth, they have to take dozens of people doing hours of research. They have to spend all this time in the editing lab, and they have to edit in pictures of them going, oh, which is what happened on The Daily Show. I did this interview with this guy about women's soccer, and his contention was that women are getting paid less for the same amount of work, which is just ridiculous. Women are not as good at soccer. There's more eyeballs for men's soccer. Yes, ladies, you had a good year in 2015. But
hold on, Gavin, back in 70 seconds. A lot of breaks at the end of the hour. I'm going to come back, finish this. You caught him red-handed.
Sorry.
Because they're such geniuses. The left's always, oh, we're such geniuses. Libertarians are so dumb, and they're the dumbest people. They're minions. Look at the Mark Dice videos. They can't even wipe their rear. All right, we're on a radio format, so a lot of our ads are at the end of an hour. Sorry, now we're going to break in 5 minutes, come back with a 12-minute segment. We're going to have Anthony Cumia with the balance of the next hour with us, but part of that is going to be, I guess, having both hosts on together. And again, the website is compoundmedia.com. Gavin McInnes, who I just think is awesome. I really, really enjoy his humor. It's a little racy for the AM and FM crowd, so warning there, some parental concerns. It's adult information. But that's what it takes to also reach out to the trendies and the liberals and kind of deprogram them. But you got cut off by the break, Gavin. You were getting on The Daily Show, taking jokes you made and acting like they were serious and editing it together.
Exactly. So what they did after the interview, they recorded a bunch of reactions. So the guy, I forget, he has some stupid Indian name, but he's sitting there and they record him going, ugh, and ugh. And then they edit that in later. And at one point they said to me, name some soccer players. I don't know about American soccer. So I made up a bunch of names, and then I go, and then, of course, everyone's favorite, a guy who's known to most as Junebug. And then I made it clear to them that that was a joke, and they didn't know it was a joke. The guy said, oh, those are some deep cuts. And I go, those weren't deep cuts. I just made up those names. It was a joke. And then they made that the whole crux of their point, was that I wanted to convince you that Junebug was a soccer player. But the big picture here is it takes so many resources and so much framing to make us look bad that they end up proving the opposite of what they're setting out to prove. They ended up proving that we're right and they're wrong.
That's right. Well, number one, 9/11 truth. They would always misrepresent what I was saying. I said criminal elements of our government are working with radical Islam. Bare minimum allowed this to happen. I had all these FBI agents and whistleblowers on. It was a fact. It's all coming out now. But Discovery Channel did this hour-long documentary that was 2 hours long. They've aired it probably 100 times. It's on all the time. It was like 7 years ago. And I talked to a packed crowd at UT, like 500 people. Okay, but I've had crowds of 5,000 before. But the point was, they cut at lunch to 2 or 3 people sitting there eating sandwiches, in the big room and showed me speaking, cutting back and forth like there were 5 people. I mean, this is real deception.
If we are so stupid, then why can't you ridicule us? If you believe that Jews are lizard people, then that's easy to mock. I can just show you, a surgeon working on a guy. We can see he doesn't have scales underneath. Very easy to mock. But if we are so easy to mock, why do you have to keep framing us? We just had this with Katie Couric, where we see the whole video and we learn that when she said, why don't you have background checks? The people she was asking didn't sit there dumbfounded. No, they edited that in later.
What's crazy is they keep doing it even though they've been caught and their ratings are going down. Are they on a suicide mission? What's happening?
They're lazy. They haven't been challenged enough. That's the funny thing about being right. I mean, if you're a black conservative, you are getting hammered every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time you visit your nephews and nieces. And what that does is it's like training, and you end up getting better at drawing conclusions from data. And conservatives, anyone right of center, is so used to being challenged and questioned that we actually have become pretty good at the truth. Whereas the left has been so spoiled with their idiotic, infantilized view of the world, with the racist, evil, bad white man ruining everything, that when they get challenged, they get verklempt. They don't know what to do.
You're right. They really are spoiled, and they just lay back and act like they're intellectual giants. Look at Trigglypuff. Look at Age Skrillex. These are not even the worst examples. This is what we're talking about. Victims of this system that gave them everything to the point now they have nothing.
Why do you want to censor me? If you don't like what I'm saying, debate me. Why are they so scared of debates? I have to fight tooth and nail to get a liberal on my show. Kurt Metzger over at Race Wars, who does a podcast, he's a liberal. Him and his black comedian friend, Sherrod Small, they have to lay out little breadcrumbs like a squirrel to get a feminist on their show, because liberals are petrified of debate because they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't even think they believe what they're saying.
Oh, no, they're not. Exactly. They're dumb people who just call themselves liberals. We'll be back. All right, I kind of started spinning out of control at the bottom of the first hour today when Leanne came in and showed me mainstream news articles where they're going to put women's urinals in the men's restrooms and make us all go into the same restroom in a movie theater. A movie theater is already a big enough train wreck. At the end of the movie, when I got to run in there and there's 20 guys, and if you're waiting on your wife or girlfriend, it takes her 15 minutes longer. Now, Alamo Drafthouse is building a new super theater with 2 giant, they put the blueprints out on Facebook, 2 giant bathrooms where you take your daughters, your son, your wife, and you're in there with all these gross guys. I mean, I'm the type of guy that just waits and drives home because I don't want to be around guys. Now, women and kids, I'm not going to that movie theater. But again, yes, what kind of freakazoids are doing this? Leanne McAdoo is popping in at the bottom of the next hour. I've tried to ignore this because, man, I don't sit around talking about bathrooms. I don't like them. Hey, you want to have unisex ones? Have it like the W, but there's like 20 one-person ones. Please bring that in. Oh, excuse me. I didn't mean to get back to this. I got so much news to cover. I want to talk about Trump, the new media censorship. We were just talking, earlier to the folks at Compound Media. Gavin McInnes, one of the founders of Vice, an amazing, I just call him a free thinker, not even libertarian or conservative, just folks that are for common sense and civilization. And Anthony Acumia, who I've known for probably, 10 years. I probably popped in on one of his previous shows. It was one of the top ones in the country. He's been kicked off terrestrial radio because of all those rules, same ones we're under, even though we dominate the internet too. And then he got kicked off for making comments about Black Lives Matter, running around killing people, saying they were acting, like horrible folks, which they were. But that's better because now he's even bigger than ever. I've gone and looked at the metrics. Believe me, the spins all over the place for what they're doing at compoundmedia.com. And this is a war. They want to shut down drugs. They want to shut down everybody. And when the head of the Federal Elections Commission, the deputy head, comes out and says, yes, I do want to regulate drugs, and these horrible right-wingers, what they're saying, it's affecting things, but I got death threats. Well, you're talking about getting rid of free speech, you demon. I mean, come on. This is what America's about. What is your problem? And so it's just out of control. They know they're losing power. They know people know they're a bunch of authoritarians. They're panicking. Now, the question is, will they win? Will we just shut up? Now, I've been ranting and probably dominating with Gavin on. So I want to give these two guys, just go at it for about 10, 15 minutes before I get to some other subjects with them on whatever is front and center for them. But I'm telling you, this is an epic time to be alive. And Trump has got his problems, but he's a nationalist. He's got the power structure crap in his pants. So much exciting stuff is happening. He's going after Hillary for all the murders and the rape and the corruption. I love it. And I love Ron Paul, but I just wish, he was on earlier, I wish he'd be more pro-Trump, because I'm telling you, folks, this is the nationalism we need. Let me just say, Anthony, great having you on here, and Gavin's riding shotgun with us. Let me ask you, what do you think of the Trump phenomenon? Where do you think this is all going? And what do you think the state of not just America, but the world is right now?
I'm loving this. I am loving it because it's time. Finally, a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. That for over a decade, I guess it's been that we just had our freedoms taken away. And freedom of speech has been front and center on their agenda. Somebody on Twitter last night was asking me, do you really think Trump is going to change things? I said, no, Trump is just a symptom of the change that's already happening.
Yeah.
People want change. They've been slowly changing, and Trump is a symptom of that change. So I don't think he's going to change things per se, but you could feel it, can't you? You could feel their desperation. And he
shows that we're angry. He shows that we're standing up, the sleeping giant.
Yes, finally, we're looking and saying, wow, it's not all them dominating the news and whatever other alternative media is out there. It's people that are thinking like we are, and like the majority of Americans are thinking. We want our freedoms back. We want to be
Tsar Nicholas II looks so pleased sitting there. Gavin, are you feeling the energy of our age shift?
This is our year. And you were talking about this with Artie Lang the other day about how he would fake his way onto job sites.
Yeah.
And he would pretend that he could do all this stuff.
Right.
You know, he'd get in shit later on. And this is what the liberals have been doing. They said, we don't want the patriarchy. We should run the show. And we went, all right, you seem to know what you're doing. We let them on the job site, and there's just been construction mayhem for 7 years. And we're realizing, wait a minute, you were lying. You don't know what you're doing. Actually, you know what? Donald Trump personifies the patriarchy. We're bringing the patriarchy back. It was working fine.
Wow. So both of you, I mean, both smart businessmen, both smart media folks, founded your own successful media companies, you know, been around the world. In your gut, when you sit around the table talking to your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever, talking to business partners, where do you really think the world's going? How do you think this fight's going to play out? What are some of the possible scenarios that are positive but also negative, Anthony?
Well, obviously, on-demand digital media is where it's at these days. People don't want to be told where, when, and what they could be watching or should be watching. Perish the thought. So I see it going that way, which opens up a lot more freedoms of expression. People are able to voice their opinions and ideology without being persecuted or fired because your boss doesn't think what you're saying is good for the company. There's a lot of good that comes of that. And again, I see this pendulum swinging, and I really do think that the free thinkers, the actual progressives, which is hilarious that they have that term stapled to them, will take hold again, and we will be able to discuss things truthfully, which is something we haven't been able to do for years. We can't talk about violence in the black community. We can't talk about things like you were just saying with the bathrooms. Like, people think, you ever see that movie Starship Troopers, where the men and the women are showering together and they're just talking about what they're going to do that day? It's ludicrous to think that men can interact with women like that on that kind of level. It isn't going to happen. They're trying to squash.
I mean, can you imagine your female reporters or say, yeah, it's shower time. Let's, guys, you know, my wife won't mind. Let me just get in the shower with my reporter here.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
I mean, your wife would kill you alone, I mean, even if the guy behaved himself.
Of course. Nobody, and no one wants their children showering with some freak that doesn't know what sexuality they are. This is common sense stuff that has been thrown to the wayside over the past decade. And it's time sensibility comes back to our society.
But isn't it also proof that they're just trying to sabotage us? There's no demand. There's no problem here. There's not a bunch of trannies going, I had to go into the bathroom with a bunch of men. It was horrible. I identified as a woman. That hasn't happened. They just know it makes us mad, so they